right, so welcome back to Views from the Window. David Howell, and today I'm joined by Tryston Hines. How are you doing, Tryston?
Good.
Good. So for those of y'all that may or may not know, Views from the Window, it's all about having conversations about things in society and in our communities that we are impacted by. And I try and bring people in to talk about their specialty, because I'm not a specialist in anything. And so I've got Tryston today, because Tryston leads a nonprofit here in Russellville area, but y'all service much larger than just Russellville itself. But she leads Joseph's House. And so Tryston, for the people watching or listening that aren't familiar with it, tell me about Joseph's House.
So Joseph's House is the primary foster and adoptive resource in the River Valley. So we cover Pope, Yell, Johnson, and Conway counties, and that means that any foster families in those areas, or anywhere close by really, could actually come to the house and get everything they need for a child in their care 24/7 completely for free. They have an access code to the doors, or if they don't have one yet, they can meet with me and I can make them one. And, we're constantly bringing in new families as we find them or as they're getting trained and opened, those kinds of things. But DHS also has their own codes to the doors as well. And we're only about 5 minutes from the Pope County DHS.
Yeah.
So it could be 3 o'clock in the morning and they could bring a kid down to get a meal, to get toiletries, clothes, everything they need.
So why are they bringing kids down at 3? Why is DHS... Do they have kids at 3 a.m.? What's the deal here?
So anytime so it could come from a different direction. It could be an investigation during the day that took a long time and things didn't get worked out and they couldn't find placement until later on, because sometimes it just takes a really long time to find an open bed. So sometimes it could be that late, or it could be a state trooper pulled over a car and all of a sudden there's kids in the car, it becomes a thing, and then DHS has to take a hold on those children. That's probably more of those late night calls.
Yeah.
But if somebody goes out because of somebody called the police at midnight or at 1 o'clock in the morning, if there's kids involved, it's usually going to be a DHS thing. Not a lot of people answer their phones in the early morning hours, so sometimes it just takes a while to figure out what's going on for that kid, if there's family members they need to go through, and they have to do a home study. Like, it's a quick home study check just to even place the child, but like they can't just say, oh, I've got a grant, like a grandma or something like that. They have to actually go out to the home, view that it's safe, get it lined up. Like, what if they don't have a bed? There has to be a bed. And we help with that too. So they could actually come get a bed from Joseph's House, get that grandma set up real fast, but it's still going to, as far as fast goes, take a few hours.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a 9 to 5 thing.
Not a 9 to 5 thing?
No.
So how many kids would you say? You've got 4 counties that you're working with.
300.
300 kids.
Mm-hmm. Those are in care. And then there's going to be a couple dozen out of care as well that we're helping, like post-adoptive services type thing.
Yeah.
After our families adopt, they can still come and use Joseph's House and take care of all their kiddos. We want to make sure that we're following them long-term, because adoption is its own story. And we want to make sure we're giving as much encouragement and hope as we can through that process, educational materials, whatever they might need to make it as successful as possible.
Wow.
So I would estimate probably about 400 kids a year or so.
Wow. Are being serviced through Joseph's House. Wow. That's
in different
amazing.
ways, but yeah.
In different ways. What? So 400 kids, how many would you say, how many foster families?
So in the River Valley, if I had to guess, somewhere around 40 to 45 foster families that are actually open homes willing to take in children. And that's going to be across all 4 of those counties. Okay. So it's definitely a need. A lot of those children are placed with fictive kin or with family members, and that's wonderful. We want to make sure that they have the resources they need as well, but they're not going to be open necessarily for more children leading forward. So we want to meet people where they are, give them what they need to keep going and be successful, but there's always a demand for foster families, because unfortunately there's just always going to be we're going to be drastically outnumbered. And that's one of the best ratios in the state.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If you look at the numbers for like Pulaski County or Sebastian County, it's wild.
Statewide, how many kids are in the DCFS system?
So my 2024 stats it's a little bit different as far as how many kids like ended the year in foster care, but there were almost 6,000 children that entered or experienced foster care in 2024. The 2025 stats aren't out yet for DCFS, but it was like 5,900.
Wow.
Somewhere just over that.
Wow.
And that could have been for a day, you know, until they figured out what's going on with that kid's story, or it could have been for a really, really long time.
Wow. That's nuts to me. That's that many. So is Joseph's House. So tell me. So you're resourcing the families. Are y'all recruiting foster families as well, or is that through a different?
So we advocate. So through opportunities like this, I can let people know we really need foster families, and you can be.
How hard is it to be a foster family?
I mean, that depends on how long you stay in the game, So, it can be emotionally draining, especially those long-term cases. Yeah. But you can really set the parameters for what you're comfortable with. You can say, I'm only going to do 2 to 3 days of emergency care, and DHS knows. I mean, they're still going to call, and you have to set your boundaries and say, this is what I can offer. But those emergency placements are desperately needed because, like I said, sometimes they just need a couple days to figure out who that kid's family is, if they've got somebody in their life that can take care of them. And that can just take a couple days to locate who that is, do the home study real quick, make sure they've got the bed, the fire extinguishers, all that stuff.
Everything's locked up.
Right.
No drugs in the house.
Yeah, we hope. So it's
no, I mean like Thailand. It all has to be locked up, put away. I'm not. Yeah, no
those
other
kinds too.
No bad drugs either.
No, we it can range. So I had 23 different kids come through my house. I would say
you had 23 different kids come through your house as foster.
Yeah, we did foster care for 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
So the shortest case 1 day, the longest case 3.5 years. So.
So I imagine 3.5 years you do get emotionally invested. And
well, we adopted, so it took a long time to get to that point.
Yeah.
But thankfully, that ended well.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Let me ask you this, because I know just from knowing you and your husband, you've been involved with Joseph's House for several years now. 10 years? 8?
Probably 10, because while we were doing foster care, we got everything we needed for those kids from Joseph's House.
Yeah.
It really helped us say yes each time we did, because we knew we could get what we needed no matter when. And then we joined the board, and then I over-volunteered myself, I think, into being kind of a permanent fixture.
So when was the moment that you realized, hey, there is a need for Joseph's House? Like, this needs to exist?
Oh, immediately. As soon as I walked in the doors, I was just pumped. Like, you go in, and it looks like a micro Riolanas, like there's these bedrooms set up just as a shop, and you just go in and get everything you need for free. And it's so encouraging knowing that, I mean, not everybody can foster, right? But everybody can do something. And so what Joseph's House really has become to me is a way for the community to wrap their arms around our foster kids and our foster families. They want to make sure, hey, I can help in this way. I found clearance underwear packages, and I'm going to give them this way, that way. They're ready for those kids. Like, it's just a way for everybody to really lift up these kiddos and provide what they need. And it's just the holding place for that.
Wow. What's one of your, I guess, the story really from foster families that changed you the most when you heard about the need? Like, how did you arrive at the point of, oh, this is something I'm called to do, this is something I should be doing? So what's the story that changed you the most?
So we were at church, and a family came up and kind of shared their experience with it. And we were younger, obviously, at the time. Michael and I, our older kids were 5 and 3.
Yeah.
And we had a 4-bedroom house because at the time I was doing photography, and I was trying to do like a home studio or whatever. And I eventually kind of outgrew it and had to get a downtown space. And then we had that open bedroom. And it was right around the same time that we heard this talk from a family talking about, right here in Russellville, there's like, right now, there's like 97 kids in care or something like that from Russellville. So And those numbers fluctuate greatly. Sometimes it could be closer. I think one of the numbers was like 52, but it goes up. It fluctuates a lot. Anyway, it washed all over me, and it just hit me. We've got this open bedroom, and there's kids out there just needing a safe place to sleep. Yeah. And so we went through training almost immediately.
How hard was that?
It was not hard at all.
Okay.
We went through the call. I think the most difficult part is learning that you have to really advocate for yourself even then, because there's still going to be turnover rates. People are going to lose your paperwork. Even though you're sitting at home waiting, very passionate and ready to go, that doesn't necessarily mean that your files aren't just chilling on someone's desk. So you have to call. You have to kind of pursue it a little bit. We went through training in 2 weekends. I think the hardest part was just finding childcare for training time, and then the waiting.
Did we do the call together?
I don't think so. I think y'all might have been a little bit before me.
Okay. I just remember the call, and we did it. It was 2 weekends, and and some of those people that we went through that with, we just immediate bond and immediate friendship, and 10 years later still close to us, and just because that's such a interesting time.
Well, and it puts people who care about something deeply in the same room.
Yeah.
So you already have this common denominator of my heart's where your heart's at.
Yeah, and I thought I remember, like you said, as soon as you said it wasn't PTSD. It was I remember, as soon as we finished the training, it was like, all right, my phone's going to start ringing today.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't ring. No. It's like, there's a need. I'm ready. Let's go.
Until they have a kiddo and they're like, oh, shoot, there's no open homes. Yeah. And then they remember, oh, I got to sign that piece of paper.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
That's what happened to us.
Is it?
Yeah. So they actually approved us so that they could place a kiddo in our house that day.
Yeah.
But it was still a few weeks later. And I think it just kind of sits there. It's one of those fires that isn't necessarily needing to be put out. So if you're down at DHS, you've got kids coming in, you've got investigations, you've got right then immediate things that need to be handled. Yeah. Paperwork might not be one of them. Yeah. Even though it could actually help some of those problems, it's still kind of out of sight, out of mind, I think, a little bit. And they do some hard things. And so my heart goes out to caseworkers and investigators for sure, because they see some things.
Tell me, because I remember when I was more involved with it, I think the average length of a DCFS worker is less than 4 years. In the system. But it's a degree that took them at least 4 years to get. Yes. So, I mean, something's broken here. There's something that needs to be done. So, the
world's broken.
Yeah, the world's broken.
They go into these homes and they're just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't think I could hang out that long either, honestly. Really? Yeah, because you go in and you see these incredibly difficult things, and then there's just what the law says you can do, and then what your heart says you want to do, and those two things don't match up sometimes. Wow. And then it ends up being, just a ton of paperwork and things that I'm sure just take away from the actual, why you got into that field. I don't know. I can't really speak for that because I'm not a caseworker. Yeah. But I would just imagine.
But you've had a lot of
being bogged down by it, having to go to court all the time, not seeing the progress being made, or It's difficult. I think that as a foster parent, you can really get much more hands-on because you're actually working on the healing for that child. And there's still a whole bunch of paperwork involved. Just applying for a daycare is insane. It's a 40-page packet sometimes.
Now, you hit on something there, the healing for the child, because that's something we don't think about. But what's, emotionally... What's something that, you see these children, you said 23, what's something that you see commonly that they're carrying with them as they move through the system?
Sometimes it takes a while to find out. Yeah. We call it the honeymoon phase. There's usually about 2 weeks where a kiddo comes into your house and it's a brand new environment. There's new toys. They're eating foods that are available that they might not have seen before. There's snacks everywhere. It's a completely different environment. So it feels like a sleepover at first, I would say, to most of them. And those are going to be the younger kids. Obviously, with your teenagers, they know what's going on a lot more. Yeah. But with the younger ones, 10 and younger, there's this honeymoon phase. And then after they get settled, they're like, okay, I'm kind of over this. I've
Yeah.
seen it. I want to go home. And then they kind of start processing immediately. Well, not immediately. Obviously, it's like 2 weeks later. They start processing right then after that phase is over that they're not exactly in control of the situation. And then
Yeah.
it all starts sort of settling and coming out. Whereas your older kids, your teenagers, they know right then what's going on. They know usually why they're and they're angry. So I would say for our older kids, it's an anger issue. Working through that, helping them understand that you're on their team, but you don't have control over the situation either. Like you can't fix it. You can't just drive them back home. You have to do what the law says you have to do and work to safely accomplish whatever the goal is. And you don't have magic powers. You can't just, control what the judge says happens.
Yeah.
You can't make people come to visits. So
in 10 years, you said magic power, so that got me thinking, though. In 10 years, if I'm like, all right, Tryston, you get to snap your fingers and this one thing is going to be corrected in the system.
In the system.
In the system. So obviously, we have I want all families to be happy, all people to be drug-free, situations where we don't need it. But what's the most common issue that you see that you're like, a simple fix here, I guess legislative, what would that be?
It's so much more complicated than that.
Okay.
So for Russellville specifically, I think like 95% of our cases are meth related.
Okay.
So, I mean, if I could say just locally, if there wasn't, but then it would be something else, I wish that families could stay together. I wish single moms weren't having to be left behind and try to figure stuff out and be desperate because they don't have support, So, I don't know. I guess.
All right. Come back to that. Single moms. So you have a mom.
I think if we really wrapped our arms around these moms, like even as teenagers, most of what I'm seeing and working with some of our bio moms, if they're willing to, all of them end up in these situations of desperation because they didn't have quality support.
Yeah.
Either they've been raised in these environments where the stuff that their kids are experiencing is the same stuff they were experiencing because it's just generational cycles. So I guess I would say I would break generational cycles. But again, that's a complicated statement.
No.
That I think that would do it.
Yeah.
If I had, Thanos powers and just
it's like 74%. It's an older figure that I remember reading, but it was like something like 75% kids in the system, one or more of their parents were in the system when they were growing up. So it is cyclical.
Yeah. And it's like 85% of victims who've been helped out of sex trafficking, they had experience in foster care. Like it's just, the statistics can be really staggering. And it starts with just not knowing that there's another way or not having access to the resources needed. Sometimes, and this is going to be a really controversial statement, but I think foster care is the best thing that ever happens to some of these kids because it pulls them out of an environment and shows them that there's another way, even if it's just for a few days.
Yeah. And
then when they're older, they can hopefully remember and be like, you know what, I can actually choose differently for my kids. So it's difficult, but I think that getting really, really involved and pouring into our teenagers, our youth, and just giving them an example of what safety looks like, of what it could be like, instead of just, oh, well, they do that because they're lucky. Sometimes it's not luck. Sometimes it's a choice. And for some of these kids working out of generational poverty and drug abuse and things like that, it's very, very difficult because they could make that choice, but not necessarily know how to have. So having people wrap their arms around them and help them change that story is everything. And then for our foster parents, that's what they're doing a lot of the time. It's not necessarily just people opening their door or on the other side, people just waiting to adopt or anything like that. Sometimes it's just really good people wanting to make a difference in that child's life so that they have a different perspective of what's possible.
What would you say is the most common misconception when it comes to foster families.
That you can profit.
That you can profit? Okay.
That's not a thing.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
So foster parents get $13 a day. It's reimbursed a month later.
Okay.
Okay, so imagine you don't have any kids. And that's going to be a stretch, but try to go backwards.
Yeah.
Imagine you get a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
I'm going to make some money.
Right. But first, you have to go buy a bed.
Yeah.
You have to buy a mattress. You have to buy bedding. You have to buy food. You have to buy, let's say it's a child who can't quite walk yet. So you're looking at walking toys. Mm-hmm. You're looking at strollers, car seats.
Because they're showing up with
nothing.
A suit, not even a suitcase a lot of times.
No, definitely not a suitcase. And we do offer those because we are adamantly against trash sacks.
I hate
But
that.
sometimes you don't even get the trash sack.
So go back to the trash sack, because someone that isn't familiar with foster care doesn't know what you're talking about there.
Okay, so when they remove a child from an unsafe environment,
Yeah.
sometimes they can shove a bunch of belongings and clothes and stuff into a bag, and normally there's not like a clean suitcase laying around, but there's usually trash sacks. So they'll grab a trash sack, and then that's what the kid takes with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And because they're in a hurry a lot of times, sometimes things are just gross. It's an unsafe environment.
Yeah.
Like when you have these extreme cases of neglect where the house is just unlivable,
Yeah.
in those cases, they probably can't bring anything with them because there's nothing suitable to bring.
Yeah.
And we really got to provide all
So that's
those
common,
things.
though. That
Right.
Kids show up with a trash bag, and usually
Less
not much
so
of it's
now,
usable.
but I think that probably prior to like 10 years ago, or kind of in the old days, I guess you
Yeah.
would say, yeah, that was definitely a thing. So when you see that on like Hollywood movies,
Yeah.
that part might be a little bit true.
Uh-huh.
The portrayal of foster parents isn't typically.
Okay, come
not
back
for
to
this
looking for a profit.
area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't speak for the whole country, obviously, and I'm
Yeah.
sure there are people like that. But for this area, it's just good people with good hearts trying to make a difference in the only way they can. When you know that there's however many kids in care, like there's 299 kids in care in the River Valley, you can either do something or close your eyes.
Yeah.
And so these are the people who just want to do something.
Yeah.
And they can't fix everything, but they can provide a safe place for the night. They might not have everything they need for that kiddo. And I don't know if you've been to like Arby's lately, but you're going to spend $13 in one meal.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just not a thing. Plus they got to go buy clothes and shoes and all sorts of stuff that this kid didn't come with. We hope that there's a stipend for that child when they enter care. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Sometimes there's a funding issue. And it's definitely not going to be in those early hours of the morning. Sometimes it takes a while to actually do that little shopping trip. And they get like $80 to buy. And it just doesn't really go very far.
Yeah.
So having immediate resources and immediate access to things is it's pretty crucial. Plus that money doesn't come in until a month later. So you could spend a few $100s that first week trying to get that kid set up.
Yeah.
And then they find a grandma. And that's done. And then you get like, $39 if it was 3 days.
Yeah.
It probably didn't even cover the food.
So it's not a profit.
No.
All right. So that's a good misconception.
It's all going to go to
point
food.
out. Yeah.
These kids all have food insecurity. They're going to eat through it
Oh, yeah.
so fast. I took a kiddo down to Chick-fil-A the other day. So I'm in kind of a special situation where every once in a while, DHS, if they're at the house and I happen to be there, I'm like, hey, you don't have to take them back to the office. Let me take them to lunch or something, and then call me when you're ready for the next step.
Yeah.
And that's just a really special thing that I personally get to do. This little boy had never been to Chick-fil-A before, and somehow that just washed all over me. And when he finished his Sprite, he was like, I'm out of my Sprite. And I was like, okay, go get a refill. And he goes, oh, they do that? And it was just like this brand new experience.
Wow.
And over a few hours when he rolled up, that was the worst day ever. And he was just over everybody. He didn't want to meet anybody new. He was tired of being
How old
told.
was he?
10.
Wow.
And he had a little sister with him. But they needed to take a shower. And so we're there combing through all this stuff. We had to like get gum out of hair and all sorts of stuff. And it was just really amazing to watch these kids bloom over just a few hours because they felt safe.
Yeah.
And that's all our foster parents are doing too, is just taking somebody who's shell-shocked, has no idea what's going on, is ready to like defend themselves or whatever, go from that to realizing they're safe, to breathing, to, experiencing things that they've not experienced before. Wonderful things like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. It depends. 10 years old, never been to Chick-fil-A. Wow. What's the biggest gap that you see in working with foster families and when it comes to needs in between the foster families and the children for the River Valley?
One of the biggest needs is going to be support in a very tangible way, like having people trained for respite care so that they can have a break.
Yeah.
Some of these kids are going through really hard things and they've got hard behaviors. And so we want these parents to keep going and stay in the game. And sometimes that means giving them a couple days, giving them the weekend where they can go on a date and breathe for a little bit and then come back stronger. They can go get trained. You can get trained just for respite care and you don't have to open your home. Like you can keep anybody's kids for like a week. If you do that, you could sign up as a foster family support system, which is basically you don't actually have to go through the training. You just have to do the background check and a home study, and then you can keep these kids up to 72 hours. And so there's ways that people can help without getting like fully immersed in the experience. So I would say that would be the biggest one. As far as for Joseph's House goes, our biggest need is going to be financial support so that we can get those items that people aren't donating. We can't accept used socks and underwear. We have to go buy that. Toiletries, we're going to have to go buy that. We don't receive any government funding or anything like that. We are 100% community supported, either through physical donations or financial donations to fill in the gaps. So that's where people can help in that way. But for our foster families directly, I think it's going to be that giving them a break and stepping in and walking alongside them.
Wow. What's so you mentioned that so all of your support comes from individuals and churches.
Yeah, we've got 4 churches that support us monthly with their local missions giving. So I would encourage churches who want to get involved in it's a ministry. Foster care is 100% a mission field, and that's the hill I'll die on, I guess, because it's not building a church in Africa, and it's not having to go. It's working right here by opening that door and bringing in kids who desperately need hope and safety and love. Yeah. So that's a mission field for sure. So if any local churches want to get involved in that would be amazing. It's my dream that we're completely church funded and that the River Valley can just be the church, wrap our arms around all these people and kids doing hard things and give them the support they need. Wow. With however that looks like. We do monthly support nights too, and so we bring in local businesses or whoever wants to get involved in that to sponsor that meal. Because if you got 5 kids, you're not going to something unless there's food, right? That's just, and they can't just use regular childcare. Like they can't just hire a babysitter and drop them off at some, like it has to be approved. So we also have people who come in and do our childcare every month too, and they're amazing. And that's their calling. It's it's an amazing Mennonite church, Scenic Hills, and they come in and do our childcare. They called me randomly one month asking how they could help, and that was 1.5 years ago. And they've been coming and doing our childcare every month since then. Wow. And so we're bringing our foster and our adoptive families together. Anybody who needs that meal, that encouragement, that break, or training hours, because it's not like a sit around the table and talk about your feelings situation. Our families have signed confidentiality agreements to be able to take care of these kids. They can't just talk about what's going on. It's not their story to tell. Yeah. But we can bring in trauma-informed guest speakers so that they get their licensing hours. Traditional families need 6 hours of continuing education to keep licensed. And our therapeutic foster homes, which the phrase "not all people wear capes" or "not all heroes wear," that's the TFC homes because they're insane. The way.
So what's therapeutic foster?
Excuse me. Therapeutic foster is going to be like your extreme diagnoses, multiple things going on, medical issues like feeding tubes and stuff like that. They're basically doing some sort of therapy 24/7. Wow. Not just taking kids to therapy, they also have to be the therapy at home. It means these kids are requiring round-the-clock management of some sort. It can't just be,
So
joining
not
the
every
fray.
foster family is set up to be a therapeutic.
Oh, no.
foster.
No. So a foster family, let me give you just a very clear example. I was a traditional family. I am not trained to do physical holds. But I had some kids start swinging for me, So those kids that need more, they're going to be better placed in a TFC home where they have to have those 24 hours of continuing education because they are getting trained in safe holds and how to restrain a child safely for themselves and for others. So that's kind of your difference right there if you just need a clear-cut example.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What's something you wish every church understood about foster care and foster care families and Joseph's House?
If
you could speak to every church.
If I could speak to every church right now, I would just say your foster parents are missionaries. It doesn't look like how you think it looks like, but that's what it is. And if we can support them like we support everybody else in the mission field, I feel like we would get a lot more foster parents. I think they would stay in the game longer. I think they would feel more encouraged and have more resources and support. So if I had like a little one-line bit, I think that would be it.
So you mean you don't have to go to another nation to be a missionary?
You can literally just unlock your door.
There you go. Let's go. And so if a pastor, somebody at a local church is listening and they're like, we want to get involved or we want to have Tryston come in and talk about this ministry.
Yeah.
Just reach out to you. You do that? You
Yeah.
speak to
Absolutely.
churches?
I got to speak at a wonderful little church in Ola a couple of weeks ago, and they were amazing.
Okay.
And they even did they called it a love offering then, and it was just precious. And it's always the smallest churches that make the biggest differences.
Wow.
Like their hearts are huge, and so I loved that. And they're going to add us to their monthly giving. And so a lot of churches do. They have a local missions giving where they're supporting, Rust Bus or Choices or something like that. There's all these wonderful things in our community where you can really love people from different angles. And so Joseph's House is the foster care angle. And so if people want to get involved in that ministry, this would be the way to do it.
If someone cannot foster, but they still want to help, what does that look like?
Literally everybody can do something, and this is kind of
have people come in?
This is kind of my prove me wrong moment. Like, I will find a way that you can help. So if you can't, there's actually like a chart. If you can't foster or adopt, because both of those are amazing, there's like over 400 kids waiting on Project Zero right now.
What's Project Zero?
It's a website where they literally have pictures and list kids who have already termination of parent rights. So they are officially adoptable, like their case is over.
Okay.
And they're waiting for a family. They can go to Project Zero and
so there's over 400 kids.
Yeah, just waiting for a family.
Waiting for adoption.
In Arkansas, yeah.
How expensive is that?
It's not. It's $0.
$0?
No.
Birth certificate. I got you there.
Actually, I think they cover that now.
Do they cover that now?
And it was only $12.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're telling me if a family wanted to adopt, there is an avenue. Obviously, though, they still have to get the training and certification.
So when they inquire if they're matched with that child, because you want to make sure that it's a good fit.
Yeah. How are you protecting the kid in that? What are you?
So there's a
There's
6
weird
month
people out there.
kind of a trial period.
Okay.
And so that's when people say foster to adopt. That's what they're talking about. Nobody fosters to adopt. Like that's not the heart. Foster care is about reunification.
Yeah.
If it ends in adoption, then it becomes adoption. But those are two completely separate things.
Okay.
The foster to adopt time period just means that they've got a child in their home that they're waiting to adopt very specifically for that purpose. But there is a 6-month waiting period to make sure everything works out. You want to make sure that nothing pops up later.
Yeah.
Like you don't just adopt a kid you meet that day. Like you have to give it some time and make sure that not just it really isn't about the child so much as you want to make sure you have what you need to be able to provide what that child needs.
Yeah.
Some of them might require more therapeutic backgrounds. Some of them might need different things. There's going to be a lot of teenagers on there that have some hard stuff, and they need people willing to walk through that with them.
Yeah.
Sibling groups, and so if you go from 0 to 6 kids real fast, you need some time to make sure you can handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want to just trust that people know what they need immediately. There's that 6-month waiting period. So that's the fostering to adopt, and it's very specifically for that purpose.
So that's Project Zero. I'll put the link to their website so you can go look.
Yeah.
Go check out the children that are available. Now, let me say this, because I do have a soapbox when it comes to this.
Let's go.
I think if you are getting into adoption to fulfill your needs, you're missing the point, the true point.
That's why I kind of doubled down for a second on foster care as a reunification goal.
Foster care is reunification. But the adoption process, because so many times I see it, I have this need to be this or to do this, and I want to. It has to be about the child, 100% about the child. Because if it's not, it isn't easy. It's going to be tough, and you're going to have battles.
No, foster and adoption is, foster care specifically, it is sacrificial giving.
Yeah.
You don't get anything out of it, and you're not going to get anything out of it except knowing, just that you did a good thing. You're going to be giving your time, your money, your heart, your comfort. You're going to risk some things, and it's worth it. Anytime someone says, well, what about this and what about this and what about this? I'm like, yeah, those things happen.
Yeah.
Also, what if you provide what that kid needs in that moment? Also, what if you make that kid feel safe for the first time in their life?
What if you break that cycle?
What if this? Yeah. So for every negative what if, there's a really powerful positive what if. And so I always tell people, like, yeah, it's a risk. Do it anyway. Like if you feel called to do this thing, and obviously be safe. Have boundaries, know what's best for your family. Like don't be reckless with it and just trust that everything's going to work out, because crazy things happen. Pick out what's safest for your family. Yeah. But don't let the fear of being uncomfortable this is the one thing. And this is what every foster parent is going to tell you. The number one thing they hear that's so frustrating, people say, oh, I could never. I would get too attached. Well, duh. Yeah. That's the whole point. These kids need somebody to get attached. And also, our foster parents are definitely getting it. You don't want foster parents out there not getting attached. No. Who wants a cold-hearted foster parent? Yeah. What is that? So no, they're not special people doing extraordinary things with their impervious hearts. Yeah. Like they're just willing to take the hit because you're
going to take a hit.
You do. Yeah. And you trade every single kid that came through my house. I traded a little bit of my comfort for a little bit of their safety. Wow. And so it's a trade, and it's accepting something that they have, which is not a good thing that they're going through, but it's not their fault. It's I'm taking a little bit of their pain so they can have a little bit of my comfort.
Have you had any of these 23 kids in the last 10 years? Have you seen any of them later on down the road?
Sometimes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I just met a kiddo that I had as a baby for just a couple weeks. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. But I'm interested in looking into that because it's been really neat to. Wow. Sometimes that pops back up. One of our local families just got a placement, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I recognize that kid. Oh. But it's been 6 or 7 years. Yeah. I get to keep in touch with some of my kiddos. I had a teenager for just a week who still messaged me on Facebook, and now she's married and has a child. And she'll every once in a while just send me a message and be like, I remember. Wow. It makes a difference, even if it's just for a week. Wow. Because it's a pretty crucial week, taking them from whatever is going on and being the safe arms that wrap around them during one of the hardest moments of their life where they're terrified because they've come from something that didn't feel great, but the unknown is even scarier, and walking through that with them and getting to that place where they're like, okay, I am actually safe. I can breathe. Yeah. Wow. Well, Tryston, thank you for joining me today. Yeah. Thank you for, I hope the people out there listening have seen that this is an issue. It is a cyclical issue that does impact Arkansas. Yeah. Just the rough numbers, again, you said, close to 400 kids in the River Valley? So The last there's usually an average of 300 children in those 4 counties in care.
And 50-something homes in Russellville. So that tells me that these
in the
kids,
River Valley.
In the River Valley, yeah. So these kids are they're not staying home.
And those are open homes, like families still
homes.
continuing.
So kids aren't getting to always stay in their home county. They're having to move across the state.
I think only maybe 3 of mine were from Pope.
Really?
They came from all over the state.
All over the state. So thank you, though, for the information. And anybody that wants to check out Tryston and this amazing ministry, Joseph's House, which does take care and support foster families and some adoptive families as well. It is open and available to the adoptive families as well. Mm-hmm. Or if you want to get involved, if you're like, you know what, maybe I can't be a foster family, but I do want to serve or get involved, or what can I do?
They can volunteer, they can donate, they can do donation drives. Yeah. And kind of where I sit with that, like, you can advocate. Literally everybody can advocate. They can say, oh, have you heard about? And sometimes it's just getting the information to the right people. At the very least, people can share Facebook posts. We've got an event, we've got a fundraiser, share it. That helps.
So are you on Facebook then?
Oh, yeah.
Search Joseph's House.
Joseph's House of Russellville. We're on Instagram, too. You can message me directly through that or through our email. It's hello@josephshouse.info.
Okay.
Our website is josephshouse.info.
Okay.
And they can see more about us there. We also have a link to our wish list right there. That's handy around Christmas, too, when we're trying to boost up stuff that we provide for kids around that time. Yeah. And then also a donate button if people want to do that. And they can do that monthly. We've got 2 people who do $25 a month, and that's amazing. Yeah. That's the underwear fund.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, thank you, Tryston, for joining. If you do have any questions, reach out to Tryston and Joseph's House. And with that, thank you for being a part.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, loved it.